They called it rage, but it was clarity. A kind of silence that only comes after the screaming stops. Not outside, but inside. When the last illusion cracks and you're left staring at the truth with bloody hands and a heartbeat you didn't earn. Listen, you don't rise because of peace. You rise because everything around you collapsed, and somehow you didn't. The mind doesn't stretch in comfort. It breaks in chaos, tears in confusion, and only then, does it learn the truth. Pain isn't the enemy. Denial is. Everyone talks about strength like it's something clean, like it's a polished statue, pristine and beautiful. But the real kind? It's ugly, messy, feral. It's born in the back of your throat when there's no one left to hear you cry, and you swallow the scream like poison. Because there's work to be done. No one's going to save you. Not because they don't care, but because they can't. No one knows the weight you carry. No one sees the war you fight just to stay standing. But that's not a curse. That's your crucible. Understand this. Every scar is a manual. Every loss, a blueprint. Every betrayal, a chiseling blade, cutting away who you aren't, so who you are can finally breathe. They'll tell you to move on, to forgive, to be soft, to be kind, to be balanced. But where was balance when the world flipped and left you face down in your own blood? Where was kindness when you begged silently for someone to just see you, and all they gave you was advice and distance? No. Balance comes after you've gone mad. Kindness means nothing if you've never been cruel. And peace? Peace is just exhaustion wearing a mask, until you've earned it through war. So stop fearing the fall. Stop clinging to the lie that survival means staying whole. You are not porcelain. You are steel made in the heat of hell. You were meant to break. Because only then can you decide what gets rebuilt. Here's the truth most won't tell you. Suffering reveals the blueprint of who you were always meant to become. It peels back the nice words and false smiles. It shreds the ego. It teaches you how to see, really see, and it whispers in your ear when no one else is watching. This is the version they fear, the version that doesn't beg, the version that builds a throne out of ashes. Don't hide your pain. Don't medicate it with distractions, likes, comfort, or validation. Study it. Sit in it. Let it stretch its claws into your soul and show you what you've been pretending not to feel. Because the moment you stop running from what hurt you is the moment you become something that doesn't flinch when life throws the next punch. Let people call it rage. Let them label you cold, distant, dark. They only see the surface. They don't know the discipline it takes to rise without noise. They don't know the night spent wrestling ghosts with no one left to call. They don't know the cost of clarity, but you do. And that knowledge, that's what makes you dangerous. Because now, you don't need permission. You don't crave rescue. You don't even ask for justice. You just move through fire, through silence, through every brick wall they swore would stop you. You don't chase peace. You become it. Not the fragile kind that breaks when tested, but the kind that walks into storms unmoved and says, I was born here. The moment you stop needing to be understood, you become something else. Not softer, not kinder, not more at peace. You become precise, unshakable, weaponized. Approval is a leash, and most wear it with pride, waiting to be validated, liked, seen, begging silently to be accepted by people who don't even accept themselves. But the harsh truth, They'll only love the version of you that makes them comfortable, not the one that tells the truth, not the one that chose growth over popularity, not the one that became sharp instead of small. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them turn your name into a cautionary tale, because legends are always rewritten by the fearful. The need to be liked is the first chain. Break it, and you'll see clearly for the first time. What people call cold is usually just clarity. What they call arrogant is self-respect without apology. What they call too much is the version of you that finally stopped shrinking to fit into someone else's small idea of who you're supposed to be. Stand in that. Because when approval dies, something else rises. A version of you with no weak spots for guilt to twist. A version of you that doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't wait, just moves. This world doesn't reward the most talented. It rewards the most disciplined, the most ruthless with their time, the most intolerant of their own excuses. So become that. Silence the part of your brain that asks, will they be okay with this? That voice isn't you. It's the echo of a past where you survived by making yourself smaller. You're not surviving anymore. You're building. And builders don't flinch every time a critic coughs. Understand this. You can't carry purpose and approval at the same time. One demands truth. The other demands a costume. Choose. The minute you stop asking for permission to exist in your full power, the world shifts. People start to move different around you. Some will back away. Let them. That's just proof you were outgrowing the room anyway. And the ones who remain, they won't need an explanation. They'll recognize the same fire, the same decision. Because once approval dies, what's left is the weapon. Clean, focused, uncompromising. Not to hurt, not to destroy, but to cut through every lie, every distraction, every doubt, to walk into a world built on noise and remain unmoved. Reinvention isn't poetic, it's violent. Not the kind of violence that spills blood. The kind that rips through your identity and leaves you standing in front of a mirror, unrecognizable, but finally true. Growth isn't elegant, it's destruction in disguise. The death of who you thought you were, the unraveling of every lie that kept you safe. But small. There's a point where the old version of you starts to rot. You feel it. The hesitation when your name gets called. The ache in your chest when you smile for people you don't even trust. The silence after you say, I'm fine, and you know you're not. That's the beginning. Don't run from it. Burn in it. Because what comes next is rebirth. And rebirth always requires a funeral. Let it die. Let the soft-spoken version of you who wanted to be chosen bleed out in the dirt. Let the scared one who over-explained drown in the silence of being done. This is the part no one posts about. The nights where the loneliness screams louder than your dreams. The mornings where your body moves but your soul is still dragging yesterday's weight. But here's what they don't understand. That's not weakness. That's construction. That's the sound of your spine forming. That's your breath, learning how to stay steady when everything inside wants to break. See, evolution doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your resistance. It forces you to choose. Old identity or new standard, but never both. People love the idea of transformation until it starts asking for everything they built their life around. Their habits, their excuses, their coping mechanisms. But to rewrite yourself, you must be willing to be empty. Empty of distraction, empty of illusion, empty of the stories you told yourself to survive. Because that's when the foundation sets, when the noise fades, and what's left is someone who doesn't need motivation anymore. Because there's a mission now. There's a version of you waiting at the end of this tunnel who doesn't stutter when it's time to speak, who doesn't ask if it's okay to want more, who doesn't tolerate half love or half living. That version doesn't flinch, doesn't apologize, doesn't return to the cage just because the door is familiar. But you don't meet that version by hoping. You meet them by killing the one who kept you safe at the cost of your greatness. So if it feels like everything's falling apart, good. That means the real work has started. That means the mask is slipping. That means you're close. Close to choosing evolution over ego, purpose over pride, fire over fantasy. 'Cause what they never told you is this: every time you break and choose to rise again, you become less human and more legend. They fear the man who lost everything, but they should fear the one who lost it all and came back laughing. Because once there's nothing left to lose, there's nothing left to hold you back. No leash, no fear, no hesitation. That's when the real war begins. Not out there, in here. The war isn't against others. It's against the version of you that keeps asking small questions. The one that stalls, hesitates, still flinches at the thought of being seen for who you really are. Kill him. That part of you that second guesses, that waits for signs, that needs one more reason, one more push, one more green light from a world that never cared. Let him go. Because the truth is brutal. The world doesn't owe you understanding. It doesn't hand out legacy. It doesn't care how close you were to quitting. But it will kneel to what you become if you refuse to break. There is no plan B. There is no backup life waiting for you if this one doesn't work. You die here. Or you build something so permanent out of your pain that time itself has to make room for your name. Forget motivation. That's for amateurs. This is obsession. This is identity. This is looking in the mirror and seeing a soldier, not a survivor. Because survival is passive. But rising? Rising is violent. It's intentional. It's merciless. You don't wait for a better day. You drag the sun up by its throat and force it to rise for you. No one's coming. There's no cavalry. Just footsteps in the dark. And they're yours. Every move you make from this moment forward is either building your crown or digging your grave. So ask yourself, right now, do I die with my potential still in my hands? Or do I carve it into every second I'm still breathing? Because the clock is bleeding out. And the question isn't if you fall again. It's whether you get back up with your eyes wide open and your fists clenched around purpose. No excuses, no softness, no maybe tomorrow. You rise now, or you stay dead. But if you rise, make sure the world remembers what it means to fear someone who had every reason to quit and chose war instead.